best use of the word pig is by a guy that we know at the track, and his name is Omar. He is a long shot player. He's constantly extolling his horses to continue running by yelling, "Stay with it, you pig! Stay there, you pig!" I mean, where you're being demeaning. It's almost like you rooting for Florida State, Lubie. Where you're just absolutely horrified at the possibilities of how badly your team is going to fade, even when they're well in command of the game. And that's one use of it. But then at the same time, you'll have guys cursing a horse in the very same race, screaming, "Don't die, you pig!" Even at a strip club, you don't hear the word pig employed as often as you do at the track. And the various uses of it, I think, are kind of fascinating. I'm surprised some English language professor hasn't studied track vernacular.
I just love that people. I've heard you guys talk about that fucking pig, but I haven't heard people using it to root on a horse that hasn't lost yet.
Yeah,
You haven't lost.
Keep going, you pig.
Why is it a pig before it loses? What if it wins by like 3 lengths?
Because the horse was a pig, or it wouldn't be a lunch. Very, very creative use of the word pig, and part of the racetrack vernacular. I don't know why it isn't a course offered in Florida schools.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
That was kind of a dumb statement there at the end. We know why it's not offered in Florida schools, because they don't want you to open your eyes to anything in Florida schools, which just opened up yesterday, so that you could learn interesting things, as the concept Ron DeSantis is pushing right now, which is, hey, you know what? They were teaching these slaves trades. We ought to make sure that kids of today are aware of that. We weren't so evil, us white guys, us rich white guys, that were, good enough to bring these people to this country, albeit in chains, but, and then teaching them how to be blacksmiths and pick cotton and do all kinds of great things. Thanks, Ron. That ought to be the first question if I was I don't know who's moderating this Republican debate, but whoever is, that should be my first, that would be my first question, right? Hey, Ron, what are the benefits of slavery again? Can you list them for us, please? They go vaudeville on the guy. They just take him right off the stage at that point. Well, what do you say? You just be stammering like you were Ralph Cramden on a honeymoon. Or say, He'd come back with some snappy answer, and turn it around and go, that's all a hoax created by the media here. We're not trying to teach that. We wouldn't even give him that much credit.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, welcome to the show. Good to have you guys with us. Jeff Forrest and Mike Lubitz. You guys that have been viewing on a regular basis are familiar with the characters on the program. And you would also know that we are also, and often, and throughout our lifetime, like many of you, I would imagine, late to the party. And there's nothing worse in gambling than being late to the party. Is there, Lubie? Team's on a 9-game winning streak. You decide, hey, I'm going to use the Yankees today, or whatever. In this case, a 9-game losing streak. I don't know. Did they lose last night? I don't think they played. They were spared. But 8 straight losses. And all of a sudden, you decide to bet against them. And guess what? Boom. They hit like 9 home runs in the first inning. And you're out of luck because you got on a bandwagon a little bit too late. Talked about it from a financial standpoint in my lifetime where, I forget what year it was. It was like in the early 2000s, stock market crashes. And, I get in, everybody's making money. We've talked about this before. Everybody's making money. I'm working on the first team there. Steve Goldie Goldstein was a big time guy in investing in stocks. And he's like, yeah, look at that. I just made another $12,000 today. Hey, look at this, 15,000 more in my account. And so I decided, okay, I had a little bit of cash at the time, and I'm thinking, well, what am I doing letting this money sit in a bank? I'm getting like no interest whatsoever. Well, let me just put it with a financial advisor who I trust, who I had known through the media, who had been very successful. And sure enough, first month, I take $100,000. I get my statement back after 1 month, $108,000. I'm like, wow, look at this. I made $8,000 last month. It's great. Second month comes, and that's when whoosh, the market started to fade, and this was just prior to the complete collapse. And I'm down like 7,000. All of a sudden, I got 93 from my 100. I lost like 15,000 in 1 month. And I said, you know what? Let me just get out right now because I don't know if I can afford the torture. And that would have shrunk down to about 20,000 if I had stayed in it. Of course, I guess it came back eventually, right?
Yeah. That's the
but I didn't have years. Time heals all wounds in real estate. That was one of the sayings my brother went by. He was very successful in investing in real estate. Whereas, when do I do it? Late to the party, Lubie. late to the party once. Hey, Defo, you coming? You said you were coming. You were supposed to bring something. And, show up real late, just as the flowers are in the punch. 2008, buy a couple of homes. Had a home, mortgaged to the hilt now as I buy a couple of other properties, thinking this is going to be my retirement plan. Boom, market crashes. I lose all of my money. Every single penny. Except when I had that renter in the place that was being foreclosed on. And she was paying, and every day they were putting like stickers on the door, booting her car. I'm like, I don't know what's going on over there. What the homeowners association fees? Let me check and see if I paid them. But always late to the party. And we've been talking about this in relation to the Baltimore Ravens, which once again last night. Now they were some ridiculous number. They had won 24 straight preseason games, including their preseason opener in 2023. Now they failed to cover the point spread in that game. Was that an indicator from the gods of gambling that it's over, Johnny? It's over.
Oh my God, my one.
What do you think?
Oh my God.
Well, last night they lost. They finally had their 24-game winning streak snapped by the Washington Commanders, which I don't know. Will you struggle the rest of your life to? Do you have to do that hesitation thing where you start saying, "Yeah, the Redskins," and then it hits you? It's kind of like the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, you always want to say San Diego. We were talking yesterday about something, and I actually thought the team was still in San Diego. They may as well be, actually, with the number of fans there. You ever seen a team? The only other team that we can equate this with, well, we could do it with some of our South Florida teams for many years. This isn't the year necessarily, but even in this season where the Marlins have exceeded anybody's wildest expectations for them, they made moves. They seem to have transformed philosophically the franchise from the dire straits that we were in with Jeffrey Loria and David Sampson, two of the worst, most despicable sports people that we have encountered here in my lifetime, not just here, but I think anywhere. And yet both of them have a big mouth after the fact. It was like O.J. Simpson, right? When he got off on the murder rap, shouldn't he have just, gone to some isolated, non-extraditable country and gone away? Collected his NFL pension. They would have, sent it into his bank account. He would have been fine. But no, what does he got to do? He's got to get involved in a bunch of minor garbage crimes after that. He's pirating cable TV. He's in a road rage incident. He's playing golf. He just was he even in that Tahoe celebrity thing? Because for some reason he was still viewed much like, I don't want to say it, 45 is still viewed as some kind of Jim Jones type of cult leader by massive amounts of people. What does it take? When are we? I don't know. Is there a country? There must be a country somewhere in the third world that elected a president that was out on bail. But it does seem odd, doesn't it? That I'm going to skip the guy that's skipping the debates that are coming up. Which I don't know how useless are the Republican debates for the nomination for president, especially since we already know who's going to get the nod in that. It's old Donald J. Trump, but. I mean, how crazy is it that you have a guy that's going to be literally he's out on bail on 4 different criminal charges against him. The amount of charges, actual charges, are like 91, but 4 different criminal cases. The guy's out on bail on all 4 of them, and that's your nominee. That's one of the 2 guys that'll be running for president. The other is senile old bastard who may have some problems of his own in terms of shady, underhanded, under the table dealings. Because no matter how you position it, Lubie, and I've been a Democratic voter my entire life, and I will vote for Joe Biden if he's running for president, obviously, over any of the Republican candidates. But I mean, there is a little bit of a stench following all Hunter around, is there not?
Yeah,
A little bit of a stench.
I think Hunter sucks. I was questioning that Hunter sucks. That's the difference. Is like Trump people want to. You can hear Eric, Donald Jr., Kirshner talk, and they actually somehow defend him. No one on the left is defending Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden sucks. Like 100%, he sucks. I'm not defending him, but that doesn't mean that Joe Biden, after decades in politics, is like, let me ruin my career by helping my fucking cocaine addict shitty son. Like, I mean, come on. There's a difference.
Crazy, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, you're right. The Trump people are clearly blind to the truth, and their whole game is to spin, these, horrific ideas and contentions into what people perceive as reality. Oh yeah, the poor man.
Poor man.
You would think this was the most, suffering. I mean, unselfish human being on the planet, man. To take all this abuse just to save our country. Thank you. We should be thanking him, Lubie. We're on the wrong path here. But you don't want to be late to the party. I mean, if you were diving on the Ravens, they had a ridiculous record against the point spread in preseason games, and we talk about it. There are a variety of theories, and this one always pops up first. That certain coaches like to win in the preseason. You'll have first-year head coaches, and they want to emphasize building that winning attitude, and so they go out there and maybe they approach preseason games a little bit differently. Other guys, go the Coco Cameron route where they don't even coach the game. You had Mike Vrabel do that, where he let one of his assistant coaches, which I don't know. It's funny how that was perceived completely differently than the Coco Cameron thing.
Well, I mean, Vrabel's been a coach for 4 or 5 years. They've been a number 1 seed. They've won in the playoffs. They beat the Patriots in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And Coco Cameron had never coached a game in his life. There's a little difference.
Never been a head coach.
This guy's been an assistant for him for like 6-7 years. He's one of the highest thought of assistants in the league and has never gotten, I don't think he's gotten one head coaching interview. No. So he's trying to prop up a minority coach.
Seemed noble.
Needs to happen.
Yeah.
To get these guys some attention, minority coaches. Coco Cameron's a moron, and he had never coached before, and it was weird.
He decided, the story for the uninitiated, he decided to sit in the stands during, was it the final preseason game or the opening preseason game? One of the preseason games that the Dolphins had.
His first and lone season.
Well, and he went 1-15 that year also. That didn't help him any. Obviously it was a plan that didn't work. Vrabel, you would have to think, would have more success, and that was a move that was roundly applauded around the league, where everybody said, "Hey, look, give this guy a shot. Let people know that he's capable of putting the headset on and making the calls, just like a zillion other people who have failed at this position in the past." That's the funny thing. That the bar for success among NFL coaches is fairly limited, is it not?
It's impossible. It's Andy Reid and Bill Belichick. Or Tomlin. I guess Tomlin missing the playoffs once in like 30 years.
You would have to say he's distinguished himself as a successful NFL coach. In general, though, you're looking at coaching records. A lot of these guys are hovering around 500 or even sub 500 that have had longevity in the league. It's a position that you can only quantify as the likelihood being that you will be a failure and deemed to be a failure in that spot. Jeff Fisher, would we consider him a success or a failure? Jeff Fisher, he had a lot of success coaching teams, and then all of a sudden, McVay. What's the story on him now? Can he coach or not?
He won a Super Bowl like 2 years ago, so I still think he can. They leverage themselves to the hilt, and when you do that, it ends up coming back around. You get a lot of old guys that age out, but I don't think that's McVay's issue. I think the guy can coach. But yes, that's the thing. There's such a thin line between success and failure, especially for college. And look, college coaches is the same thing. Like, what's his name? Gene Chizik with Auburn, won a championship with Cam Newton. 2 years later, he was fired because he was a disaster. Guys, all that Gus Malzahn was a success, almost won a title with Auburn. 2 years later, they were a disaster, and the fan base hated him. Like, being a coach it's a very unforgiving job.
Unless your name is Lane Kiffin.
Oh, yeah. He fails
forward. In which case, it doesn't matter what you do. You're going to get a better job no matter what. He did have those couple of years where you would have to say he was in coaching purgatory there at FAU. But then when you think about it overall, not too bad, right? I mean, you're coaching here in South Florida. There's no pressure on you to win. Goes out there, picks up a pretty good roster, gets a couple of guys released from prison early. And next thing you know, he's 11-3. And he's on his way to the SEC.
Our guy, we were with Tom Herman. He didn't seem that upset to be down in Boca. He was wearing like sandals and short.
Yes.
I feel like it gives coaches a chance to like not have to stress for a couple years.
You're at the beach, for God's sake. Nobody cares if you win or lose. I mean, what's going to happen? Is Schnelly going to scream at you from the grave? Oh, we better get this program going in the right direction. Herman, though, has an easy opportunity to relax, though, because didn't he get paid like $20 million from Texas to go away?
Yes.
Pretty incredible after what people would have deemed a relatively successful stint there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't like he was horrendous. You would have to say, Jimbo Fisher seems to get a free pass everywhere that he goes.
Fisher's been worse at A&M than Herman was at Texas, 100%.
Yes.
They literally only had 1 year over 500 or 1 year well over 500. They usually have hovered around 500, which in college is abysmal.
Yet the boosters with Jimbo can't wait to sign him to lengthy extensions, no matter how poor his team. His team will go 5-7, and he gets an extension for 12 years. It's pretty incredible. Some guys have luck in that category. A lot of guys don't. But I think overall, if you looked at it, I don't know if you took the summation of all people that have been head coaches in the NFL. You would think that math alone would lead to about a 500 record, but the majority of guys end up losing, don't they? End up losing. It's an ill-fated proposition, except that you get paid a lot of guaranteed money, whereas the players are out there toiling. Well, now they're getting guarantees that are exorbitant also. When you look at the quarterback salaries and the fact that, we don't know. I mean, can Lamar Jackson really lead the Ravens to a Super Bowl for $185 million guaranteed? Is Deshaun Watson ever going to distinguish himself enough with the Cleveland Browns? Do you feel that he will have some kind of turnaround this year, justifying $231 million in what seemed to be very tainted guaranteed money, my friend? Tainted in the sense that you're taking on a guy of bad character who, he sat out his 11 games. Okay, so he did his penance, but does that still make it easy? You hear nothing about any of the troubles that he had anymore.
No, I mean,
where are the 65 women that were lining up saying that he had in some way sexually assaulted them or forced them into having unconsensual sexual activity? They're all gone. They've all been silenced. With
I mean, he did his penance. In society, he had to leave one team. He didn't play for like 2 years. He then had almost an entire season out with a suspension. They never brought criminal charges. He never had to go to prison.
No.
So, I mean, civilly, they ended up having a settlement that wasn't even that bad when you look at the kind of money he's made. So that's the thing. Like, how long do you punish him for it in the public eye when criminally nothing happened? And it's 2 years later or 3 years later. I mean, at some point, it is what it is. Like, how often do you talk about something like that? Like,
I guess would be inappropriate maybe for the announcers on every play. Which they would not be inclined to do anyway, right? On the instructions from the network. And you see Joe Buck mention, well, you know what? That's 45 yards here today are the exact number of women that he assaulted for Deshaun Watson. Not likely to make those illusions, are they?
No.
Mushnick is always challenging Roger Goodell to go ahead and either recite the titles and or repeat the lyrics of any of the rappers and the various people that he's had doing halftime shows in front of the family-based National Football League audience, where we want little Johnny tuned in and everybody else to the Super Bowl game, and then they get up there and they're represented by what? A bunch of guys that are profusely using the N-word and referring to women and abuse, all kinds of stuff. That's his big pet peeve. Is that
I don't know what happened. So it's rare that they have rappers do halftime. I mean, it's not a lot of rappers. Bruno Mars isn't one to drop the F-bomb.
No. I mean, that's fairly clean cut.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck Mushnick's talking about there. They rarely have
rappers. Well, no, they had that whole thing with Dr. Dre and Eminem. A couple of years ago, and what were they thinking about having? Who's the fat chick, Lizzo, that is supposedly abusing her?
Yeah, well, she supposedly is a scumbag.
Backup dancers and everything. But wasn't she up for consideration for the halftime show this year?
I'm sure she supposedly is a total piece of shit. Like, at least for where she came from, she supposedly is a real jerk. Yes.
All right. Well, anyway, late to the party, Lubie. Did you get on the Ravens to cover? I think they were 20-2 or something like that, or 19-2-1 across the games that they had played prior to this year, and now they're 0-2 in the preseason in terms of covering the spread. Yeah. They did win that first game by a point. Lost this one last night to Washington. It wasn't as if this was a void of entertainment. This game, as you had the starting quarterback for.
Sam Howell played.
Yeah, the kid out of North Carolina.
Sam Howell actually played in this game. Well, he's young. That's the thing. He's young, and it's not like he's this stud. Like, he's just a quarterback because they have no one else.
Wasn't he named the starter by Ron Rivera?
No, he's a starter, but it's not like he's their future. He's the starter because they have no one else, and he wasn't horrible last year. So they're like, okay, yeah, go start.
You saying they would be better off having Bailey Howell come back from the grave?
He was like a 4th or 5th round pick. It wasn't, and he was. They had like tons of injuries last year, so finally he got to play, and he wasn't horrible. But
yeah,
he
looked great last night. I don't know if he was playing against Ravens scrubs.
They was. It's not like they gave him the keys of the kingdom. Like
Yeah.
the guy doesn't have a blank check. Like we'll see how long he's a starter if he starts fucking around.
How dumb do you feel though if you started betting the Ravens this year?
That sucks.
You would have to feel like there was something just wrong with your life inherently.
They hadn't lost since 2015.
It's insane. Yeah, they won 24 straight games. If you were just betting them straight up on the money line, we would have had to lay a little bit of a price. They were 3-point favorites in the game last night, and looked by all rights like they were going to, end up in the victory circle. But they gave up a late field goal. I think with like seconds to go, the Commanders kicked a field goal, and that knocked off the streak of 24 consecutive wins. That's pretty phenomenal when you think about it, because you know that Harbaugh wasn't. I mean, it wasn't like he was obsessed with winning these games. Would you think? Just by the odds of the degenerate gods alone, you would figure he would lose a couple just here and there, bringing scrubs in the fourth quarter. But I don't think, did he go out of his way to win these games? There was no
it wasn't like he
obvious
was playing Lamar Jackson into the fourth quarter. No, it's not like he was playing his all-pro safeties into like the third quarter. No, he wasn't doing that. But he definitely, people talked about it. He cared. Like he definitely cared in a way not all the coaches cared. Like Belichick doesn't give a shit.
I guess when you have Ray Lewis giving the pregame speech. Was Ray Lewis? Did the drugs affect him that much? Because Ray Lewis was like a skinny, waif-like player. I remember when he came to the University of Miami. I still remember being at a press conference where Dennis Erickson announced that he had just completed the recruiting class. It was kind of like a separate occasion from announcing the rest of the recruits and how happy they were to have scored all of these top-notch high school athletes who are going to continue to persevere and keep the program going at the highest of levels. And then I remember it seemed like it was a few weeks later or something. At the very end, they found some way to sign Ray Lewis, and they had a little press conference. And they were talking about, or either that, or it was an addendum to what they were talking about. Oh yeah. By the way, we just got a letter of intent from Ray Lewis, and I thought, okay, who the hell is Ray Lewis? He was touted well coming out of high school, but didn't he weigh like 190 pounds?
Yeah, he was like a 5-star. Like he was good in high school, but he wasn't like fucking insane.
No, he wasn't 260 of massive, solid, incredible Hulk type muscle.
Like a safety. He was actually, if you look at him, he was more of the size of a safety when he was in college. Even when he left.
So what do you think? Can you get that big just by working out with no assist?
You get bigger. You can't get that big. He changed his body type. He looked like he was a fucking defensive lineman that could run like a 4.4. Yeah, the dude was not clean. But it's the NFL. None of them are. I mean, the NFL, they don't give a shit about fucking.
No.
Merriman.
Dirtier in terms of roids, pro wrestling or the National Football League? What do you think?
Oh, Jesus. That's tough.
More roids injected
I feel like person. Pro wrestling, they keep it in the lot. Like it's back in the 80s when they used to have greenies in the goddamn locker room in baseball stadiums. Like I feel like wrestling, they actually have like a sponsorship that's steroids. The NFL still has rules against it, quote unquote, but like your career's not ruined. Like in baseball, if you get popped, people are like, oh my God, look at Heredia.
80 games for Felix Heredia. Yeah. Can you believe it?
Like
guy's arms were thinner than a pencil.
It's like 4 games, and like Merriman still almost won the Defensive Player of the Year that year.
Yes.
And he got popped.
There'll be a game where somebody comes out on the field with a syringe still in their ass. No?
Probably. Yeah.
Kind of like the quarter horse races that we had here at Pompano Park many years ago, where there was still a syringe in the flank of some of the horses. If they ran on the outside, you could clearly see it. Pretty incredible. Anyway, late to the party, Lubie. Late to the fucking party. Not on the Ravens bandwagon. Imagine this: if you were betting your traditional, what's your traditional bet? Would be a dime a game.
20.
If you were betting your traditional $1,000 a game, whatever it was, whatever denomination you float with, right? It's all relative to how much money you can afford to lose.
Yes.
You would have been up 18 dimes if you were betting the Ravens prior to this season, and you started in 2000. What was that? 15? You said
2015. They lost to the Falcons. That was the last time they lost.
Is that right? Is it 15? Because that's like 8 years.
Yeah, you play like 3 to 4 games a year.
Okay, well, it's only recently they dropped down to 3 games. So I want to say that streak doesn't go that far back.
I'm telling you, it's 2015.
Oh, yeah? Wow.
Because remember, they lost that year, so that year doesn't count. So it's 2016 on.
There you go.
Where it starts.
Now
and
you're talking.
3 years, I think, that they've been doing the 3 games. So.
Makes some sense, yeah. Okay. All right, well, we didn't get on it. Chris Perkins is going to join us, and we're going to talk a little football with Chris Perkins here on the show. A couple of other things going on. In the NFL, Jonathan Taylor was, I always find this a little odd, that he was given permission to seek a trade. So what does he do? Does he make various proposals? Does he go to the Dolphins and say, why don't you give him a 6th-round pick, and I'll go ahead and see if that flies? What does that constitute? Does he find a team that's interested and they start negotiating? How does that work? Where the player himself is going out and seeking a trade. Hello, anybody want me? This is a top-notch running back in the National Football League, a guy that's been, you would think, the main impetus behind the Colts offense for the last several years. They've had different problems at quarterback. They seem to be playing guys of very little distinction there, including last year, Matt Ryan, who he was a shot fighter at that point, was he not? Comes in there and just looks awful. They've tried various other solutions. So Taylor was really, well, whatever chance they had of doing well, it seemed to be resting on his shoulders. Why would the Dolphins be so interested? They were chasing Dalvin Cook. When you look at this statistically, Lubie, Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson,
They're fine.
They averaged combined 4.8 yards per carry last year. Is that some bogus number? I mean, what was it inflated because they had 2 90-yard runs? I don't think so. This wasn't an Olivedani influenced stat where if you took away a couple of plays, that demonstrated some persistent consistency on their part. If you're getting 4.8 yards per carry out of a tandem of running backs, do you really need to be desperate to find another running back? Which the Dolphins drafted a running back, and that kid looked pretty good. How do you pronounce his name? Akane? Akan?
I think it's A Shane. I think
A Shane? A Shane?
A Shane.
A Shane?
That's what I heard.
Anyway, I mean, so does it not seem like they're well equipped and deep at running back?
They're fine.
Why would you make a big trade for Jonathan Taylor?
I think Taylor's a good back. I actually like Dalvin Cook more, to be brutally honest. But to spend $8 to $10 million, and that's the thing, Martin is a free agent, right? So if you're getting him, you're either going to give up stuff to lose him, which is weird, or you're going to have to re-sign him. So you have Wilkins who needs to get signed. Wilkins is turning into one of the best defensive tackles in football, and your defense really flows off of him. So you need to keep him. Connor Williams, the offensive lineman, I know he struggled in this preseason, but he was great as a center last year. You need him. Hunt has been one of the actual offensive linemen they drafted that they did a good job finding. Like, you need to keep, like, they have guys you need to keep. A running back ain't it. Like Mostert, none of these guys are killers as running backs, but they don't need it. These guys can churn yards and keep the drive
They're
going.
professional, yeah. I mean, Mostert, you would have to say, and he's demonstrated the ability to be sensational at times. I don't know how compromised he's been by the knee injuries that he's had, but he did acquit himself very well last year. And I just think if you're getting 4.8 yards per carry out of your running back contingent, why would you be so desperate to search and find? I mean, even if Jim Brown came back from the grave in his prime, are you really desperate to fill a need at that position or to improve at that position? Or would you not be better off
I'd rather get
scanning the waiver wires after cutdown day to find some big fat slob you can insert on the offensive line who might be able to take up space?
I'd rather get a right tackle, left guard, and left tackle, because that's the thing. The one position they're supposedly set, they're not. Armstead already. Armstead still isn't healthy. Flirted with getting really hurt. Thank God he didn't get really hurt, but he still is flirting with hurt. He hasn't played at all in the preseason. We're hoping he plays week 1. Like, you really need 3 more linemen. Austin Jackson is getting pushed around. Liam Eichenberg is horrendous. Like, get linemen.
Well, where did Eichenberg play? Yeshiva? Where was he from?
Notre Dame, and he was actually decent.
Does Yeshiva have a football team?
Maybe. I don't know how they play, though. You can't play on Saturdays. How do they play their games? They move them to Thursday. Friday night and Saturday, you can't play.
Hey, we're playing the Jews, man. No, we're playing Friday night.
Yeah, but you can't play Friday night. It's the beginning of.
Oh, that's right. You can't even play Friday night. Friday afternoon. Yeah. Well, there and then the sun is fading fast here into the horizon, and that's going to be it. We're going to end this game here in the third quarter.
The whole team just leaves the field.
I did tune in early to the Padres-Marlins game last night, and we did tell you that Ryan Weathers was a liability.
You're right. Yeah, you were right.
And he had come from San Diego. Did he come in the Garrett Cooper deal? Cooper went to San Diego, and was Weathers part of that trade?
Yeah.
I think he might have been thrown in as part of that deal, or might have been traded straight up for Garrett Cooper. Ryan Weathers, who every time I saw him, he was with the Padres. I saw him a couple of times actually, just flipping around channels, and watching Major League Baseball Network, and he was getting just pounded every time I saw him. He did not look ready to pitch in the major leagues. And so the Marlins, out of desperation, I guess, had to call him up. They sent him right down to AAA. He's pitching with the Jumbo Shrimp in Jacksonville, and comes up now out of need because Cueto was a scratch, has some kind of virus, which you're thinking, do you wish anybody to be ill? But if it was anybody, it would be Johnny Cueto. Thinking, I don't want to see this guy go out there. We know that's a loss. And then I saw them pencil in. We mentioned this yesterday. You were right about Waka, who pitched very well for the Padres. Went 5 1/3. But Weathers, I mean, he pitched 3 1/3. He gave up a grand salami, 5 runs, 5 hits, and 5 walks in 3 1/3 inning. Mel Stottlemyre, literally, he had to be spitting up pea soup there, right? He had to look like Blair in The Exorcist, just thinking, wow, we traded for this guy? Now it's a nice story. His father, David Weathers, was a member of the original Marlins, 1993. I think he was like a spot starter, 5th starter, David Weathers. But he was a guy that when he went out on the mound, unfortunately that year, 1993, you were thinking everybody is going to get torched. But he was a guy that you thought, we're going to need like 5 or 6 runs today. We got Weathers on the mound.
Weathers and Pat Rapp. It was like
Pat
an
Rapp.
It was like
As in, wrap this one in the loss column. We had some horrendous starting pitching. Ryan Bowen. He was bad. Charlie Huff, was 60 when he was starting as our ace.
He was older than the manager.
What they do to expansion teams. My God. Anyway, this is starting to hurt. It's starting to become painful.
Yeah, they're done.
These losses, and now, just sort of buried there. Now they're at the bottom of that pool of teams that was competing for the 3rd wild card spot, including the team that's in the 3rd wild card spot, which is pretty fragile right now. And they find themselves, let me see, I actually wrote it down.
Game and a half out. They're a game and a half out.
Game and a half behind San Fran, but half back of Cincinnati and a game back of Arizona. So that's the thing, where you have to leapfrog a bunch of teams. We always talk about that, where a golfer is in like 7th place and, he's going to have to not only shoot lights out, but hope that nobody else does that's ahead of him. It's possible and still in the mix, but getting ugly. As the Marlins get torched last night, 6-2. They did get a home run from Bell, and Sperger's hitting the ball like a champ. I think he's hitting like 400 as a Marlin. Everybody was focused in on Louis Arise, who has not been as sharp in the second half as he was in the first half. But, this guy Berger has been a hell of a pickup. Kim Ng, we were talking about making some moves before the trade deadline, and, both Bell and Berger have done exactly what you would want. Even though Robertson's blown a couple of games for him, and it's sort of been, But those two guys have added some impetus and some oomph to the batting order. And, definitely were upgrades from what we have, Segura and Garrett Cooper there. And they're doing it with power also. All right, we're coming back with more. Chris Perkins is going to join us. We'll get a little insight into the Miami Dolphins and where they stand after 2 preseason games, and also take a peripheral look around the rest of the league. And then later on, this is great, Louis, Mike Norvell going to join us. And we're not going to fool anybody. We had an interview with him yesterday because, the time was prohibitive for us to get him on between 7 and 9. So later in the morning, we interviewed Mike Norvell, and I had some internet problems yesterday. How's it working out today? So far, so good?
Yeah, you only had like a 5-second blip. It wasn't bad. So far, thank goodness.
Let's hope we can hang in there today. The technology, not necessarily the gods of technology looking favorably upon us the last couple of days. But, so and it was great because you got to dive into it with Mike Norvell for like the first 10 minutes, it seems like. And I came back in, and, that's always an awkward thing where you're thinking,
what the fuck?
Lubie ask him about the quarterback yet? I would imagine you did, Jordan Travis.
Well, I left it alone. I did very specific stuff because I knew you wouldn't do that, just in case you came back.
Oh, you were talking about the kids and this and that. You were so wrapped up in it, Lubie. It was insane. It was great. So we'll have that for you later on. Mike Norvell, very gracious to accommodate us every year that he's been there at FSU so far. And he did video with us yesterday, so that's coming up later in the program as well. All right, we'll be back with Chris Perkins of the Sun Sentinel in a moment. Now that. The time 7:41.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Hi, guys. If I could squeeze in two. One is just, can you say with certainty that Jimmy Garoppolo will be on the roster on Sunday?
I can't guarantee that anybody in the world will be alive Sunday, so I can't guarantee who will be on our roster on Sunday. So that goes for all of us.
From South Florida to the entire world, thank you to the iHeartRadio app. Here is Defo joined by Lubie on The Defo Show.
All right, there he is, the handsome one himself. Welcome back to the show. We welcome in, and we always feel good. It makes us feel great about living in South Florida when we see the relaxing environment, the cool pad that we originate this interview with Chris Perkins from. Chris, how are you, first of all? Nice to see you poolside once again. Oh, we don't have the audio on Chris Perkins.
Your audio. Make sure your mic's on, Perkman.
You got to flip on a microphone or something. Yeah, there you go. Punch that button.
Gotta hit those.
Very good. Because we want to hear what you have to say.
Would help, yes.
Yeah. We do have several qualified lip readers in the audience. And he's looking, he's searching, he's rebooting. And Chris Perkins, the Sun Sentinel, where you can tell you there's some man. Are you there, Chris? Yeah. Nope, still silent film for sure. We're doing a little mime act here with Marcel Marceau, the Black Marcel Marceau, Chris Perkins of the Sun Sentinel. All right, keep searching for that button, Chris, and he's got something working. Very good. Dolphins, by the way, and they did use a little Tua Tagovailoa in their game last week against the Houston Texans. The Texans don't appear to be in very good shape there. With C.J. Stroud starting at quarterback, he was error prone and prone to mistake. You look concerned there, Chris Perkins. We still haven't figured this out.
Give him a call. We can get him on the phone and we can figure out video next time.
Okay, all right. Let's get him on the phone here and get this thing rolling, because we do have Mike Norvell in that interview that Lubie was very excited yesterday. I had to do it also, Lubie, where I had to ask him the question about the Bobby Bowden Mama's Meatloaf thing. I don't know that really is that a consideration anymore. I mean, the head coaches, are they actually recruiting kids and sitting there in the living room and then talking about how wonderful the care they're going to get when they come under the wing of this very grandfatherly-like figure, Bobby Bowden, and he convinces them to go to FSU, and then Mama suggests, "Hey, why don't you stay for dinner, Coach?" And he says, "Well, what are we having?" And it's always Mama's Meatloaf. All right, we do have Chris Perkins by telephone here. Sorry about the lack of video. Chris, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. I'm going to be up in Jacksonville over the weekend. So actually, Jacksonville Beach. I've discovered that's a much better place to make that road trip than actual Jacksonville.
There's not much going on in Jacksonville, is there? You have the TPC.
No. The landings. Isn't the landings like a big thing there?
Yeah.
Used to be like 5 dog tracks there. I remember when I was one of the various stages of desperation in my career when I was doing a dog racing show. We were up in Jacksonville for a little while, and we're overwhelmingly impressed with the interest that they had in a sport that was soon to be banned. Not much going on there. And the Dolphins last week against Houston. Now, were you out there watching some of these tandem workouts, or were you in attendance at the game? What was What was the MO for the coverage?
I was not.
Or did you send Furones out there?
Yep. We sent Furones.
Okay, and what did you observe? I mean, what were you able to deduce from any of this, if anything of significance?
No, it was significant. I think number one was Skylar Thompson and the way that he was able to guide the offense and make significant improvements over the last time that we really saw him for an extended period, which was that Buffalo Wild Card game. He was making good decisions. He was confident. The process was a lot smoother of getting the play down to him and him getting the play to the players. So that was one thing. The other thing that Defo is that run game, 205 yards rushing. Now, granted, Houston was the worst run defense in the league last year. It looks like they probably will be again this year. But the Dolphins did that without a fullback. Alex Ingold did not play, and so it was up to those tight ends to kind of fill that role. And that really was my bigger takeaway from the run game, bigger than the running backs, bigger than the offensive line, is, hey, these tight ends might be able to make a significant contribution. And you were able to execute the run game without showing too much to the Chargers because, again, you didn't have a fullback, so you didn't reveal that part of your run game to them. And then on the other side of the ball, look, the defense did a good job. The starters were only in there for 15 snaps, but that first possession after two or through the interception, they have their backs against the wall at the 7-yard line, and they keep Houston out of the end zone. And of those 15 plays that the defense played, Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips only played 5 snaps. So, and they were both instrumental in putting pressure on C.J. Stroud, the Houston quarterback, the number 2 pick of the draft, and helping keep Houston out of the end zone. So there were some takeaways. I still don't know what's going on at left guard. I wasn't that impressed by what Isaiah Wynn did. Liam Eichenberg didn't play. At right tackle, I thought Austin Jackson did a decent job, especially going up against Will Anderson, the number 3 pick of the draft. So I think that Austin Jackson is going to keep that job. And then just as far as other stuff, I think Braxton Berrios gets the slot, who's the number 3 receiving target. I think that will still be either Braxton Berrios or Raheem Mostert. I don't think it'll be Robbie Chosen. I don't think it'll be Eric Ezekama. The nickel position, that cornerback opposite Xavier Howard, I think it probably will go to Eli Apple and not Noah Igbenogany with Kader Kohu in the slot. So that's
good job on pronunciation, by the way. Wow.
But that's what I saw, yeah.
I mean, that was great. I mean, they have hockey names now in the secondary, and you rolled through there like you were Jeff Rimmer, first year of the Panthers. Fantastic job there, Chris Perkins.
What I was going to say, okay, so you and I were on the same page last year, Perk, where we felt McDaniel a lot of time got away from the run. And he talked about it this offseason. He had to grow as a coach. I get it. It's the preseason, so I'm trying to take everything with a grain of salt. And yes, the Texans were bad, but they played bad teams last year. And that was my frustration, was they let games get away in that sort of streak where they were losing games, because instead of trying to control the game, he kept trying to make the big play when they didn't need to. And the one thing they struggled with last year was they were boom or bust. They were like one of the best teams at big plays, but they were not good at sustaining drives and getting scores. And that's what you saw with Tua right after the interception. The next drive was like 14 plays, a lot on the ground, a lot of smart passes that got the ball out of Tua's hands quickly. When there was a rush, Tua was falling differently, which a lot of people were noticing. Whether that's whatever that means, it was something that was noticed. And it felt like McDaniel did not shy away from running the ball. And I get it. It's, again, just a preseason versus a horrendous team. But it felt like he's cognizant of the idea of keeping the ball on the ground, keeping the chains moving. And that's something that was very different last year.
No, I agree 100% with that, Lubie. They had 38 runs and 29 passes against Houston, which, yeah, you would not have seen that last year at all. Nothing close to that kind of a mix. So, yeah, no, you're 100% right. And look, I think that there was a conscious effort to both throw to the tight ends, which they've done both games, and in different situations, and see what these tight ends can do on 1st and 10, on goal line, in short yardage. And then I think it was the same with the run game. See if Devon Achane can consistently run between the tackles. He showed that so far this year in training camp and against Atlanta. they did it again. By the way, we'll see. Hopefully, we'll get a better update on him today. He's week to week. He got a shoulder injury in the game, but they ran outside, they ran inside, they ran Ahmed, who had 12 carries for 99 yards. They ran A-Chain. The rookie Chris Brooks brings a physical presence, a kid from BYU, although I don't think there's going to be a spot for him on the 53. He could hang around on the practice squad. Miles Gaskin looks like he'll be the odd man out. But, yeah, you saw Raheem Mostert with some good runs. And, look, Lubie, the other thing that you're 100% right about, there weren't any really big plays in the passing game. Savon Ahmed, I think, had the 65-yard run, and Mostert might have had a 21-yard run, and there were some 15-yard passes. But, with Tyreek and Jalen, you're used to seeing a 40, 50, 60-yard pass, maybe a touchdown of that length, and we didn't have that. The 4 touchdown drives were 93, 80, 82, and 80-something. Yep. So you're right about playing. They were moving the chain. Play to play, and that's another really good thing to see from this offense, a dimension we didn't see last year.
All right, and we're talking about Mostert, and we know that Mostert is capable of doing, at times, spectacular things like he did in the NFC Championship game a couple of years back with the 49ers. Subsequent to that, had to work through another injury and a setback in his career. Came back I thought he ran the ball with a lot of power last year, and Wilson, when he came on board, was a definite upgrade. Why is it that the Dolphins, I know the theory is always, well, geez, if you can improve your roster, you may as well go out and try to do that. But is there really not much interest on the Dolphins' part in first chasing Dalvin Cook, and now supposedly, as soon as, this Jonathan Taylor story surfaced that he was granted permission to seek a trade, the teams that popped into the headlines, and among the leaders to be interested, where among them the Miami Dolphins. Are they really interested? These guys averaged 4.8 yards a carry last year for the Fins. How much of an upgrade do they need?
Well, I would say this, that Dalvin Cook and Jonathan Taylor are both significantly better than Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson.
Okay.
And they give you big play capability. They give you short yardage capability. You can hand the ball to them on any down, and you're probably going to get something positive out of it. That's not the case with Mostert and Wilson. Mostert is a speed guy. Wilson is a slasher. I would like to have some more power back there in the backfield, more of a workhorse running back. Having said that, I would not chase Jonathan Taylor. He's too expensive. He's going to cost you a first rounder to get to acquire, and then you've got to give him a new contract. And to me, that's just too much. Now, the difference between Jonathan Taylor and Dalvin Cook is you were just going to date Dalvin Cook. You've got to marry Jonathan Taylor,
yep.
Right? I mean, the Dalvin Cook is one, maybe a 2-year deal, maybe. Jonathan Taylor, you're going 4 or 5 years with this guy. You still got to pay Wilkins. And I'll tell you this, and I've got to talk to players about this, but I would think there might be a little simmering resentment in that locker room, or could be, from the standpoint of, they look around and they see, look, you're paying all these guys that you're just bringing in, and the draftees like Christian Wilkins is not getting paid, and you brought in Byron Jones and paid him more than you paid Xavier Howard, a guy that you drafted. Yeah. And you got to pay Tua, you got to pay Javon Holland, you got to pay Jalen Phillips, you got to pay Jalen Waddle. So you're giving all this money to Tyreek and Teron and Jonathan Taylor, the free agents. What about the guys you drafted and developed? And so that's what I'm not. I think Jonathan Taylor on a secondary level, that could create a little resentment, because you've got some first round picks, Wilkins, Tua, Phillips, Waddle, that you've got to pay some big money, and to give that money to an outsider and let somebody like Wilkins sit there and suffer, I'm not sure how that would go over in the locker room.
Yeah, probably not real well. I mean, probably like when Gene Atkins saw Jason Cole coming into the locker room that day. And I don't know what Jason had said that Atkins found particularly unflattering, but when he body slammed him into the ground, You thought there's a little discontent in here, or friction. All right, well, what are we looking for in Jacksonville? Anything in particular? You mentioned there might be some spots up for grabs. I sort of have changed my viewpoint in watching preseason games in general now because I used to be the biggest advocate of the whole revolution against the NFL. How could they dare charge fans full price for this dreck? And we're subjected to 40s games, and nobody cares about them. And they had the big dress rehearsal game, now down to 3, which people have been crying for less preseason games for years. So we got that. Maybe it's to the point where 2 preseason games would be sufficient. But yet I'm watching and I'm seeing guys, and you're thinking there really is a lot to that sort of understory. I mean, sub-story to, the fact that the starters don't play, and that a lot of these guys are literally, I mean, on the razor's edge of either having a career or getting a copy of the classifieds and having a whole different life. And now with the money that's involved in the NFL, you could probably get by, at least for a substantial portion of your life on a couple of years of playing. And a lot of that is up for grabs and at stake. And then I asked Brett Tessa was telling us, Chris, I know it's a long question here, but he was telling us that there's only one cut down day now for what the last couple of years, which makes that a real mad scramble, doesn't it?
Yeah. And look, I agree with you on 2 parts of that, but not the whole thing.
Yeah.
You can't charge full price for this.
No, that should never be done. No.
Right. But I do agree with you on the razor's edge, and these guys, and there's just one cut date. Preseason has become more essential for the second and third string guys than it was previously. With 4 games, you were trying to get the regulars some playing time and find some rhythm for your starting lineup. Guys, now what we've seen is in the last few years that if you're going to win 10, 12 games, you pretty much keep your starters out the entire preseason, and you use those first couple of games as a kind of a get your starters going type of a situation. But that's why I don't, charging people. It was bad before, but at least then when you had the 4 games, they had that quote unquote dress rehearsal, that third game where the starters would play into the third quarter. You don't even see that now. No. Like Tua has played 15 snaps. I doubt we're going to see him against Jacksonville. Maybe we do because Mike White is in concussion protocol, which will be something else we'll have to watch on Saturday. Do they actually put Tua out there? I think it's going to be Skylar Thompson and James Blackman, and who they just recently re-signed, the kid from Blade Central and Florida State and Arkansas State. I don't think they put Tua out there, but yeah, watch what the Dolphins. It's watch how many snaps the starters get in preseason. Right now, Tua has played 14. A lot of the other starters have played 15. The defensive starters played 15. Liam Eichenberg and Austin Jackson played 14 snaps against Atlanta. So they might end up like in the 30s or the 40s. But a regular game, you're going to have 65, 70 snaps. So these guys are going to play one quarter, maybe one half. And if you're a good team, you kind of use those first couple of games to get the starting offense and defense worked out. And it's all relative because pretty much everybody is doing it. It's not like half the league is just playing their starters for 2 preseason games and they're rolling in, coming in to the opener on a roll. Everybody is doing it. So it's like how nobody tackles in practice anymore, and the tackling is kind of shabby for the first couple of weeks. That's kind of how you get the first and second, your first and second, your starting offense and defense into regular season shape. You kind of use those first 2 regular season games. So, yeah, charging people for these full price for these preseason games. I mean, it's important to these second and third stringers, but wow, NFL, you know how to make money, and you've got some gall.
Oh no, that was criminal. I guess the theory was, the salary for the season hadn't kicked in, and the owners are making all the money from the gate during the preseason. Right. Plus, it's part of the television package, so they're reaping the benefits there. And, it was a total ripoff. And, and the other thing was that was particularly disturbing is, some guy would be in section 150 there, right around the 50-yard line, and he was proudly displaying the fact that these were his season tickets. and you realize that he was paying $150 a copy for the preseason game, and you paid $5 outside.
Yeah.
You know, off some desperate scalper who also offered you Beyonce tickets if you took these Dolphin tickets off his hands. So I mean, it was a blatant ripoff forever. I mean, if you ever had sporting criminal activity, that was it. Charging people full price for that, and it gets back to the thing like the cell phone companies where you're charging your best customers your worst rates.
Exactly.
Because they're not eligible to get out of this crappy deal that you made with them, where they have to buy the preseason, and there's no way to justify taking that as like a regular game, no matter how into the minutia of it, like we just discussed, where there are some great storylines being illuminated in some of these preseason games, but not enough to make you feel like you really got your money's worth. All right. The rookie quarterback so far, have you taken a look at any of these guys? I mean, it seems like it's going to be a tough go. I guess Richardson didn't play in his second game, and that was somewhat mystifying to people. C.J. Stroud has been unimpressive so far. Looks to be lost. Bryce Young, I haven't seen him play. I guess I saw a couple of plays in his second preseason game, but nothing special so far there. What do you think? I mean, it's too premature, obviously, to make this kind of evaluation of whether they're going to make it or not. But have you seen anything that would give you a direction to go in as to how impactful any of these guys are going to be this year?
Stroud is the only one that I've really paid attention to, and that's because the Dolphins just played him.
Yeah.
He got them on a good roll there on the second possession, I believe it was. He might have hit like 5 consecutive passes.
Okay.
Showed some good touch on some passes, but I mean, look, Houston's going to be terrible this year, right? I mean, I think they won 3 games last year. They might win 5 or 6 this year. The guy is going to take a beating, and so really it's going to be as much physical, as much mental for C.J. Stroud as it is physical. Can you kind of withstand the constant losing and the constant failures and the constant play breakdown and the constant frustration? Can you fight through that for, say, 2 years, and then maybe you'll see some light at the end of the tunnel? And look, that's the case with a lot of these quarterbacks who are taken at the top of the draft, right? Because that's how and why your team got you, because they were so bad. And so, but with C.J. Stroud, Houston has been so bad for so long, and some of the guys who left, you remember, they kind of dog cussed the front office. J.J. Watt wasn't happy. DeAndre Hopkins wasn't happy. Deshaun Watson left under different circumstances.
Yes.
But,
he was very happy in some regards. Yeah. In terms of happy endings. Yeah.
Situation. Yeah. But it's with Houston. That's really more what my concern than C.J. Stroud. It's the organization that, they've been down, and I just don't see them coming up for a few years. I like DeMeco Ryans, the newly named head coach from San Francisco's defensive coordinator, but you've got your work cut out for you there as an organization and as a quarterback.
Yeah, the optimism of the incoming coach with the Houston Texans at the introductory press conference is often misguided and sadly unfounded as he struggles his way through a couple of years of just blatantly, poor losing football. Chris, always a pleasure, my friend. Will you be, and you're heading off to Jacksonville, you said, for this final session, the Miami Dolphins.
I am. Dolphins practice today, tomorrow, and Thursday. They're off Friday. They play Saturday. So again, we'll be looking at the quarterback situation and really, I think that I'll say this about the quarterbacks. I think Skyler was I think he came into training camp as the number 2 guy. Mike White slowly made that a closer battle. Might have slightly overtaken him with his performance against Atlanta. But with the performance against Houston, I think it's game on again, and maybe Skyler is the guy, which is a concern because you paid Mike White $4 million to come in, and you can't have him be the 3rd string guy behind a 7th round pick. So I'm actually looking suspiciously at a couple of those Jets that the Dolphins acquired in Mike White and Dan Feeney. Really happy with Braxton Berrios. That dude is a baller. He's a starter in the slot. Yeah. He's gonna be a good player. But But Dan Feeney did the center guard, and he was guaranteed, I think, $3 million. So I'm eyeing these former Jets suspiciously. And so Skyler's performance as it relates to Mike White, who is guaranteed $4 million, Defo, that's one thing I'm going to be watching on Saturday.
At that point, you may as well have signed Bernie Kosar and just had him on the sidelines. Right? I mean, if the guy's going to be third string, yeah, exactly.
Back or something.
Unbelievable. Chris, always a pleasure, my friend. Sorry we didn't get the video up, but we'll do it again, very soon. And appreciate your, very astute assessment of what's going on with this Miami Dolphins franchise. Thanks so much for being with us.
All right, guys, we'll do it again.
Thanks, man.
All right, very good. Could you go into that much detail if you were a reporter? Which, and that was a great thing about newspaper sports sections, right? Lubie, an unfortunate, a breed that died out long before radio, which is sad to say. But how much detail did this guy have on even like fourth string guys on the Miami Dolphins? And that's going on around the country. People are analyzing this from so many different angles, but you really don't get that kind of depth out of most reporters. It would be a pain in the ass, wouldn't it, to go after all of this information, Lubie? What do you think?
It just gets old. Like, I could do it. Like, I could do that right now with that. When it comes to FSU, I could get into a lot of depth. But it gets old having to do that as your only thing. Like, that's
right. Where you're a beat reporter and you're analyzing how many minutes Hightower is getting off the bench.
That's nice.
And you're thinking, well, geez, whose minutes is he going to take? Is it going to be Duncan Robinson? And you're thinking, well, who cares about this in the long run, man? Just go out there and, put the ball in the basket, as they say. All right, good stuff from Chris Perkins. We're going to talk to Mike Norvell. We have that interview coming up. I did want to get into this a little bit, Lubie. The self-imposed ban, which is one of my favorite situations. It's kind of like, the World Boxing Council stripping a guy of a title, where you're thinking, who cares what their opinion is? And in the NCAA right now, how could you possibly be guilty of recruiting violations? It seems like, NCAA regulation is totally unnecessary. And
they don't have any power when it comes to the money, really, but they do have power over the time periods. They have these really strict time periods when you can and cannot contact, how you can and cannot contact. I don't know why. I guess it's to let the high school kids still be high school kids a little bit. I don't know, because these coaches are fucking incessant. So I guess it's to protect the kids a little bit from the coaches who are loons. But that's where they still have a little bit of power. There's dead periods where you have to leave. And I guess COVID, they were even stricter about it in some senses.
And Harbaugh was guilty.
Yeah, Harbaugh didn't give a shit.
Was he the only guy, though? He's the only guy that's been targeted.
Yeah, I'm
you don't
sure.
think Nick was making a couple of phone calls during the COVID period?
They all have their ways around the rules. That's why when the Jimbos of the world and the Dabos are like, who, me? It's like, come on, get the fuck out of here.
You can't imagine Dabo Swinney was in violation of any of the parameters and guidelines set out by the NCAA. He probably has the rule book memorized. But the self-imposed ban, how pathetic is that, Lubie? It's like, you're not going to masturbate for a day. What is that?
Their schedule's weak. They don't play.
I'm never eating again. It holds no weight whatsoever.
None.
No pun intended there. That's it. No more Coke for me. Right. No more drugs for that man. That was in Face Off. That was probably the only good thing about that movie, that one line. All right, we're coming back with more. Mike Norvell going to join us. We had the interview yesterday. It was a very nice conversation. I'll bring that to you and be back with that and more in a moment. Now that it's 8:10. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. Make the right choice for your home. Call Choice Mortgage today.
Are we all in stable but critical condition? Is that the way all life is, Lubie? In a general, more figurative sense? Would you say you're in stable but critical condition? I believe you are right now.
Probably.
On the threshold of getting married in the early portion of 2021. Don't you think it's a little soon, kid? You barely notice women. What are you
We've
doing?
been together 4 years.
Well, I guess you know enough.
How long do you want her to put up with me?
Is it you that's pushing for this?
It's equal. We're both very happy and in love. It's very gross.
Oh, my God. All right. It's a foreign concept. You have to understand where I'm coming from. 0 for 2 with a walk. And, right now I think I got a 3-2 count in marriage number 3. But, and only because of the benefit of a really poor call on a ball that was clearly right down the middle of the plate. One of those Angel Hernandez calls. Get out of here.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
I guess everybody's experienced at one time or another the self-imposed ban. No, Libby, where you lose an argument with a woman. That's significant in your life. You just had that clip there about how in love you are with the lovely Shirley, but you lose an argument, and guess what? Self-imposed ban, man. You're on your own. As horny as you may be, it's not happening tonight, kiddo. Men, on the other hand, are usually, inclined to encourage make-up sex as a solution to all problems and differences in a marriage or a relationship, whereas women will just go right out there like they were the Michigan Board of Trustees and said, you know what, Jim, we're going to go ahead and ban you for 3 games here so that we're getting ahead of the punishment. I always like that. Getting ahead of it.
They play Eastern Michigan, UNLV, and Bowling Green. And the game he comes back to is Rutgers.
You want to have him back for that because, originally the NCAA was talking about, I don't know, I'd seen stories about how he's going to be getting a 4-game ban to begin the season, Jim Harbaugh. Now, do you think that he'll be influential in any way? Is he not allowed anywhere near the facility? Is he not allowed in the state of Michigan?
That's my thing.
While this is going on. How can he not be communicating with the coaching staff and saying, here's what I want to do. I want to play little Johnny on the first 15 snaps.
That's what he can't text. He can't be in like a voice, like some kind of speaker. Like, I don't know. I think there's rules against it, but come on. Like, are you kidding me? Like, who's checking it? Him texting the fucking get back guy. Like, you may not text the guy in, but I'm sure you're telling me he's not texting someone. Like, he's obsessive. Like, I find that hard.
Yeah, and it's going to become like, the communication scenes in Casino.
Exactly.
When Pesci was banned, and so he would whisper in some guy's ear, and then there were choppers flying overhead, and they had lip readers with binoculars from the FBI, and they would get in one car and go out the other. You would have to think he's still going to be influential in whatever's going on there. And like you said, also, Lubie, not exactly the heaviest set of challenges on the horizon there. Those first 3 games, so pretty much useless, huh? The self-imposed ban by a woman, certainly is far more impactful than this would be. But crazy. And then what happens if, like, the NCAA comes back and says that ain't enough, right? I guess they can say he already served 3 games. What are they thinking here? What is the purpose of that?
They're probably not, because again, like you were alluding to, it's not the craziest of crimes. So
no, I don't know. It seemed pretty relatively minor by today's standards, which there are no standards anymore.
There's not. The NCAA actually doesn't have that much power. It's interesting when once in a while they do elicit these penalties because it's like, oh, the NCAA is still there.
Exactly. I didn't even know they still existed. Did they still have an office? Where were they located? Lawrence, Kansas, or some remote outpost of the United States where nobody would ever want to have establish an office. Even those mesothelioma guys don't have offices in Lawrence, Kansas. Remember they wielded such incredible power, and they were able to go ahead and sort of impose intense fear onto a lot of the people on the scene, especially if you were one of those outfits like the University of Miami that was constantly under scrutiny. I guess FSU had its share of
Yes.
indiscretions that were viewed dimly by the NCAA.
FSU, USC, these were easy targets.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Penn State.
Somehow them Gators got away with an awful lot of stuff.
Never seem to get popped for things. It's interesting.
Charlie Pell, aptly named, was handing out those Pell Grants, like he was giving out bar mitzvah invitations. He was like dealing. Here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go. You got two? Okay, all right, no problem. And nobody cared. Nobody ever really looked into it with any kind of detail or any kind of depth. We do have to, and this is also another theory that was busted up, which is if you're going to bet marathons in exactas, box the Kenya, correct? That's like a given. Every now and then, some Ethiopian will slip his way in there or earn a way in there, and now you're like, what? It was Kenya, Ethiopia? My God, my streak is busted. In sprint races, in world-class track and field events, Lubie, and they're having the World Championships right now. What would you say? Box the Jamaicans, women's and men.
Oh, yeah, and women. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, for sure.
Track Usain Bolt.
Oof, Bolt. I mean, it didn't end there.
No.
Jamaican women are doing work.
Jamaican women are flying, man, as if that ganja on the beach also somehow
That was like a steroid.
served as a stimulus for speed. But two Americans come up big with wins. So it's worthy of mention here. Speaking of weed, Sha'Carri Richardson, right? Wasn't she dropped off the Olympic team because she had a positive marijuana test? And, what was contender for a gold medal, I guess. She comes from lane 9 in the qualifying and is in lane 9 in the final, which, had 3 Jamaicans in 3, 4, and 5, the main tracks there for the top qualifiers, and blows them away in the stretch like a quarter horse on the outside. You know, that quarter horse is always surging on the outside. And you're like, is that the 10? Yeah. Oh, my God, I got it. She wins the women's 100, and then a guy named Noah Lyles takes down the Jamaicans, another American sprinter, in the 100-meter dash at the World Championships, Libby. So is there hope? Maybe this decade of dominance or even longer by the Jamaican sprinters might be coming to an end? What do you think? When are the Olympics? 2024? Olympic Games?
Happened? Didn't the Olympics just happen?
Summer Games?
2026. I'll look it up, but I think didn't the summer just happen? 2024 something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was recently because
it just
that was
happened.
where Simone Biles, had the episode.
Yeah.
Right. All of a sudden fell off the balance beam. That was it. All right. She came back, by the way, and has overcome whatever, problems that she was incurring on the personal level or mentally, internally, and came back and won like a title just the other day somewhere. All right. We're coming back with more. Mike Norvell, head coach of the Florida State Seminoles. Up next here on the Defo Show as we continue in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:19.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently,
I'm sorry, I couldn't get your question.
you were a coach that you coached all kinds of teams. You had teams that...
Hey, say it in English. That, you got it?
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
A shining moment in our broadcasting career when Mike Lubie Lubitz finally got a chance to interview his idol, the great and late Bobby Bowden, who everybody loved and adored. And he couldn't be any more gracious with virtually everybody. Steve from Humatilla would call in with a question, and he would treat it as if it was coming from Albert Einstein. And Lubie tries to get a question out to Bobby Bowden, and within 2 seconds he says, "Dadgummit." He gave him a dadgummit right away, and just say it in English. And he was destroyed there for a little while and recovered nicely, as has the FSU program. Since Bobby Bowden's departure, we had Jimbo in there and Taggart. And then, of course, there was a search on internationally to find a new leader there. And it landed on this gentleman who joins us right now. Mike Norvell, who has done a phenomenal job there and orchestrated a remarkable turnaround in a short period of time. Coach, how are you? Good to have you on the program.
It's great to be on, and everything's going well. We're 2 weeks away, and just really proud of the guys and how they worked through fall camp. There was a real push, and every day we're 15 practices then, and really challenged our guys just for the sense of focus, the sense of improvement, and continuing to come together as we prepare for our first game, which is going to be a big one. And up to this point, our guys have responded in a great fashion, and just like everybody, we're excited to get back out there on the field and go kick it off.
Well, awareness opening opponent 2 years in a row when you took the job here, because it seems like drawing out sent them out to having the schedule by the marquee de sade, as they say.
Well, we're definitely excited about the showcase, the opportunity that we have. I mean, that's why you come to Florida State, to play in games like this, to open the season. Obviously a great opportunity, to be able to kick off and put on display the identity of this team and who we're all about. It's just. A year ago we got to play this game down in New Orleans, and it was a great game. Obviously a wonderful exposure for our program, and going into that game, there's a lot of questions about both teams. And LSU goes on to win the SEC West, and we went on to have a 10-win season. And now coming into this year, it's a top 10 matchup, a lot of excitement, and our guys, we're grateful to be a part of it.
So often we hear it's tough to get there. But then we hear it's even tougher to be there. And like you just said, 10-win season, first 10-win season for you at FSU, first 10-win season at FSU in a few years. But now you're the hunted. Expectations are high. Both sides of the ball look to be top 10 in the country. Special teams looks to be vastly improved. How is it different to be one with expectations as opposed to the one trying to have expectations?
Well, we've always had expectations, and you don't come to FSU unless you have the highest expectations within. And, we try not to get caught up on what outside expectations are. But there's nobody that will ever have higher expectations than what we have within this building, within this team. The way that we work, the way that we push, not only on the field, but off the field. We want these guys best. And, I love who I get to coach. I love the young men that I get to be around every day, and obviously the staff that I'm a part of. So, we've always had high expectations, and, as we've had to go through the journey to get to this point, I'm definitely glad that people on the outside are seeing our program in a great light. And, we embrace that. And, now we have to go and, put on display who we are and what we're all about throughout the course of this season.
So what's interesting is, look, it's Florida State, like you said, even coming in, there was talent on the roster. The big issue, look, what separates the great teams from the good teams to the mediocre teams is depth, right? Like, depth is a huge thing. And the difference for you guys, it feels like now, as opposed to in years past, you are deep. Offensive line, you and Coach Atkins said yesterday, you can go as deep as 10 guys that you feel confident, if not more, can play in that offensive line, which a few years ago, FSU was at the bottom in the country at offensive line. Defensive line, Lovett comes back. Verse comes back. Both guys are NFL caliber players. You bring in Jackson from Miami, who you're still trying to get cleared with the waivers. You bring in Fisk, a monster transfer. So defensive line goes 2 to 3 deep. Receiving core might be one of the best receiving cores in the country. Jordan Travis is considered by many a Heisman frontrunner. Okay, so depth, talent across the board is something that FSU was lacking, that you've built up. How does it feel differently now looking at this roster? I keep hearing how excited coaches are, Coach Fuller, Coach Surtain, you, Coach Dugans, Coach Atkins. When you look at the depth of this roster as compared to when you got to Florida State.
Well, it's all about competition. And, when you have when you have quality competition at every position, it pushes guys, and everybody's trying to establish their role, their spot on this team. They, each player wants to make an impact, but you've got to show up on a consistent basis and prove that you're ready to make that impact. And when you're doing that with and against great players, I mean, it really pushes yourself that every day you step into this building, every day you step into the meeting rooms, the weight room, locker room, out there on the practice field. I mean, you got to bring your A game, and that's what I love to see. And when you have the position battles of our offensive line going against our defensive line, receivers versus DBs, quarterbacks, and all that we try to do offensively against just a top-notch defense. I mean, that's where guys get to really improve in their game, improve in their skill set. You have to make the adjustments, as a coaching staff to make sure that we're showcasing, all the skills of our guys. And, that's what makes it fun coming to work every day. And, these guys, they've embraced the work. And, that's, it's one of those qualities that are, I think, an absolute necessity for a football team. As you build that, you got to embrace that process. And, if you're afraid of competition, if you're not willing to give all that you have on a daily basis, then, Florida State's definitely not the place for you.
Everybody's describing, what's happening in college football in some form of pandemonium. You have the name, image, and likeness thing, the transfer portal, all of this conference realignment, even possibly conference elimination. And you come to Florida State with some kind of vision in mind as to how you were going to rebuild the program. Started out slowly, go 3-6 the first year, start out 0-4 the next year, and then starts to trigger in some of the things that you were trying to implement. How much did that vision of what you thought you were going to have to do in terms of turning the program around change in the last couple of years with the acceleration of people using both the name, image, and likeness and a transfer portal to both, bring in players and, you now have to actually recruit your own players from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, the process of building the culture, setting the foundation, having, implementing the virtues and the characteristics that we wanted here, that didn't change. And the avenue of how players you get to transfer or to be able to come in and to have immediate eligibility, our first couple of years, we were limited to a 25, signee cap, and then obviously this last year, that got kind of moved aside to where it was unlimited, and there was some opportunity there, and for us, it's the way it gets done. That's one thing, but the process of what we're doing and how we're building a team, how we're building a culture, how we're developing our players, and that's what we've had to stay true to. And you talked about the tough start. Nobody wanted to have to go through that. I mean, it's coaches, players, but sometimes you have to go through what you need to prove you can get through. And we needed that as a program. And now, as you see that we've taken some positive steps, it's about continuing to take steps of learning from those lessons, learning from the experience, the good, the bad, and just getting better. And that's what I really enjoyed, because we've got guys on this team that all have a different backstory. They all have a different path to what brought them here to Florida State, but now we're here together, and we get to support each other, we get to inspire each other, we get to help encourage each other on this journey, through the good days and the bad. And that's what makes my job such a wonderful one, and I love who I get to do it with.
It's interesting. Like when it comes to college coaches, we sort of on our show mock the phony when it comes to sports. And a lot of times you hear these coaches will tell one kid one thing, another kid another thing. They'll load up on kids just for the recruiting rankings. But who knows what is really going to happen. From what we've heard from day one from you and your staff, whether it's recruits, players, coaches, parents, good and bad, you guys are real, quote unquote. And it's finally come around to the point where people are seeing it as a positive. But look, in early days, a lot of kids were upset that you were point blank honest with them. And I've heard this to a man from literally every person I've talked to about you and your staff, that it's not bogus, that you are straight up with current players, former players, recruits, parents, something that Coach Bowden seemed like he instilled in the program. But not all college coaches, it feels like they do it. How did you get there, and how do you embrace it to the point where you're successful with it when you see so many coaches do the quote-unquote used car salesman kind of tactic?
Yeah, I mean, the whole recruiting process, it still comes down to when somebody says yes and they come to be a part of your team. I want them to know exactly what they're coming into, because it's not about winning signing day. It's really not. I mean, yes, it's a celebration for the kids, for their families, for all the work that's gone into it. Yes, I mean the university gets to celebrate a new player coming to the program, but on the other side of it, it's about what you do when they get there and how you're going to develop them, how they're going to be able to be pushed, to be a part of the program, to be a part of what you're continuing to build, because we are trying to put together the most talented football team, and it's not just about any one individual. It's not about any one coach. So I'd much rather be very transparent on the expectations, and then you find yourself with like-minded individuals, and those guys have gelled together really well, regardless of the backstory. But they all chose to come here, with a very transparent view of what they were coming into, and obviously as that has success and you're able to build upon that, guys can see themselves and they want that, let me say the right guys want to be a part of that journey, and that's what we're experiencing here.
I'm not as invested in Florida State as Lubie is. You guys routinely destroy my Syracuse orange every year, and set us back to reality that maybe that start was a little bit of a falsehood. And yet I couldn't help. I mean, one of the most memorable games for me viewing last year was that opener against LSU. If you could take us back to that, because obviously there's pressure all the time, but this was going to be an eye-opener for one team or the other. And as I recall, I mean, even I was getting as psychotic as Lubie does sometimes watching FSU football, watching you guys hang on in that game. What was that experience like for you, and how much did it serve as a springboard to the rest of the success that you had last season?
No, I mean it was a great game for us, and it wasn't a great game just because we found a way to win it, but really just even the swings. It was a close game in the first half. Back and forth, some missed opportunities that we had in the first half, and we go into halftime. We're able to kind of regroup, and you go out, played really really well in the third quarter, and we were right there on the brink of really taking the game to put it out of reach, but had a few mistakes. And ultimately, when that happened, LSU was able to capitalize on it, and they made their run at the end. And but it still came down to a play. And I always tell our players, you never know when that one play is going to show up. It might be in the first quarter, might be in the fourth quarter. Well, in that game, it happened to be the very last one, and it came down to an effort play. Somebody just believed, and that's something that we really try to emphasize throughout the core of our program, and that's what made it special, is more how it was won, building up through all the swings that went through the course of that contest.
Oh, it was great. Real thrill in Manila, and got us off to a good start in the football season as well. And let's hope it can carry on. This Jordan Travis looks terrific. I would imagine most coaches go to sleep at night, praying to God, my kingdom for a quarterback, and you have that. Just one last thing, if you don't mind, because we often ask other coaches about this if they have this ability. And it's a tradition at FSU, started by Bobby Bowden. His ability to recruit was largely based, we thought, on him having an iron cast stomach, where he could go into somebody's home and he would actually order, ask for another slice of Mama's meatloaf. Have you had that experience? Have you found that your culinary interests have expanded and horizons have expanded since you've taken over the FSU job?
Well, I mean, you throughout my career as a coach, whether as an assistant or a head coach, if I'm fortunate enough to get a home cooked meal whenever we're out on the road recruiting, regardless of what's served, you're going to see a smile on my face, and I'm going to enjoy all different aspects of it. Sometimes it's not just the taste, but it's one of those things that it's the joys of getting a sense of the young man, the family, all the people that have kind of invested in their experience and their journey. So it's definitely, you get a well cooked home cooked meal. You try to enjoy the finer points of it, and like I said, it's not always the taste, but it's the thought that counts.
It does take a little Anthony Bourdain, I guess, to be successful in college football. Coach, we wish you the best of luck. Lubie's going to be solidly behind you. And, from the rivalry with the University of Miami, which was kind of a gentle rivalry, we became big FSU fans, and we're united in hating the Gators. So we wish you the best of luck all season long. And thanks so much for joining us once again on the show.
I appreciate you guys having me on, and go Noles.
All right, Mike Norvell, ladies and gentlemen. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
You can't fake caring. Women can sense this immediately. You don't really care. You didn't really want to do any of this.
We now return to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, and we're kind of working with a little bit of a new format here and a new exit time of about 8:45 every day. So adjust your clocks and your calendars and your social agenda accordingly, and that is to accommodate a little bit of a new venture that Lubie and I are diving into, off to a little bit of an awkward start, but I think it's going to clean itself up, and that is No Filter. How do people find this No Filter thing, Lubie? Which we go live with that at 9 o'clock? Is that the way it works?
Yeah, No Filter. Just go to nofilter.net, and you can watch us in all our glory and just look up License to Steal / I guess we're calling it the morning briefing.
It's a little bit of a raw treatment so far of some of the stuff that we go over here. You'll probably find yourself saying, hey, wait a minute, man. Didn't those guys just talk about that? But new platform, new horizons, new potential. And you're always looking to find your way through this maze of a streaming game into a spot where you can say, holy shit, man, I can't believe how much money's in this. No, that would be nice, wouldn't it, Libby? You get 20,000 subscribers. They're paying you $5 a month. Next thing you know, you're making $100,000 a month. You feel like David Portnoy.
There you go.
So long way down the road from where we're at right now with this thing, but you never know what can happen. If you don't try, you'll never make it. Mike Norvell, very serious guy. Andy pointed that out. We managed to get a little bit of a half of a laugh out of him with the standard Bobby Bowden Ironcast stomach material. See, I don't know. Is it possible? Willie Taggart? I don't want to get into any kind of, political, indifferent, not what would that be? Indiscretion. What was he not as comfortable eating Mama's meatloaf as Bobby Bowden? Jimbo left the place in a shambles, didn't he?
I think Jimbo sucked in that regard. I think Taggart probably was fine with the eating. I think he just didn't handle much of the other stuff well. That was sort of Taggart's issue.
Do you think that he pulled like a Mayo, where Mike goes to visit his ex-wife? She makes like a gourmet meal that would be worthy of any 5-star, highly rated, restaurant. And Mayo says, hey, the asparagus could have used more salt. Was that Jimbo's thing? This meatloaf, frankly, Mama, it fucking blows.
I think by the end, Jimbo was just being brutally honest.
Makes this shit and throws it on the floor for the dog.
I don't need this shit.
I wouldn't treat a dog the way you treated me. The old blues song. Is it getting old, that whole routine? I think it works on every coach, especially like a guy with a very serious side. And now you're not going to get anything out of Mike Norvell that isn't. I mean, if there was a prototype for who could do the best sort of optimistic. Not, I mean, it's not like he's giving you vague answers. I believe he really feels like he's letting you know what's going on with the program.
Yes, he thinks he's answering the question. He
Yeah.
says nothing.
But there's nothing there. But classic coach speak, is there not?
I love the guy. I've become a huge fan.
Couldn't be any more gracious, right? He's done our show like every year.
He comes on. No, they're literally a championship contender this year, and he comes on doing video. And we had him on for 15 minutes. We had him on for like 18 minutes, actually. We could have had him on longer. It's just time constraints with us re-airing it. Yeah, he just doesn't say anything. He has it down to almost a science where people leave the conversation with him happy.
Yes.
But when you rewatch it, you're like, I don't think he said anything.
You think you had a friendly and sort of in-depth conversation, and then you realize that you were able to deduce nothing from that.
I'm like,
except that there is optimism surrounding the program, and that all the kids are being treated extremely well. And it's all about the kids, and you almost believe it from him. It's all about the kids.
Look, the one thing
it might be about the $8 million he's making every year too. Is that possible?
Well, but he just got that now. He was only making like 3 before. He was actually one of the lower paid coaches until this offseason, and it was only because schools were starting to do the negative recruit thing because he only had 1 year left, and schools, even though things were on the upswing, coaches were starting to go up. He's not going to be there. They won't give him an extension. He's going to leave. So then they gave him the extension, and he got his. Yeah. The one thing
how much are they paying Jimbo still?
Jimbo gets, I think he gets 10 a year.
From Florida State.
Is done paying him, and they're done paying Taggart after this year. They're done paying Jimbo. Well, Jimbo left. They didn't know.
Imagine it. I mean, they had Bobby there for like 50 years, and now they're paying 3 coaches at the same time.
I don't know if they were paying Jimbo left. Like if a coach leaves on his own accord, I don't think you have to pay.
Oh, they got paid maybe with Jimbo. No,
I think there was a buyout that they got money on. That A&M didn't give a shit about paying.
Possible, yeah.
They were paying Taggart and they were paying Norvell at the same time. And Taggart, this is the last year that they have to pay Taggart.
Not that it's about money, but these oil people, I mean, they weren't going to stop short of landing Jimbo Fisher as their head coach, which they may now
it's done nothing.
Have lived to regret.
Kevin Sumlin, I think, right now has a better record when he was at A&M than Fisher. Actually has not been good. He's been horrendous there.
5-7 last year, right?
Yeah. The only 1 year that they were well over 500 was the 8-4 year. Was not 8-4. Whatever the fuck the record was in the COVID year. I think they were like 5 and something in the COVID year. That was the only.
This cranks up Saturday, all of this.
Week 0, yeah. There's no.
Is it week 0 or week sub-0?
It is sub-0 because the games are horrendous. None of the games are good.
Okay.
But there is actual action that counts this week.
Yes. I mean, including Notre Dame in Ireland.
Yes.
Going against the Naval Academy, which all of the handicappers, how does the line keep rising? This is kind of like, the polls on the Trump numbers where they keep rising no matter what.
Well, because they like Sam Hartman, who had a lot of success at Wake Forest, with a Notre Dame team that had a lot of talent, just struggled at the quarterback position. They're assuming he's going to come right in and be good. People don't realize being a team that plays Wake Forest a lot, and they do some bullshit ass offense too. They do this like delay shit where the quarterback like stands there like a statue and fakes a handoff, like everything to do with slow motion, which you would think wouldn't work, but it actually works the opposite and works really well for them. I don't know if Notre Dame is doing that exact fucking off. Like that was what made Hartman good, was that exact offense. So like, it's not that Hartman was this great quarterback, because as teams figured it out by the end of the year, Wake Forest wasn't that good to finish the year.
Yeah.
But it's that offense. So like, that's the whole thing with Hartman is, will Notre Dame just automatically be good because they have Hartman? Or if they don't have this offense, will they not? Like people are assuming Notre Dame is going to be great. The professor and I have talked a lot about how we don't know what Notre Dame is going to be. So this game's actually
you never seem to know. I mean, there was a time where you could assume that they were going to, be in one of the big bowl games because they were already invited before the season even started, and then they would go out and lose a couple of games, maybe 3, and but they played. You would have to say for whatever share of patsies they have, they were playing some heavyweights.
Yeah,
on an annual basis.
Yeah, they played Michigan State. They played Michigan. They play USC.
USC
they go out of conference, or they don't have a conference. They go out and play strong.
Used to play Miami, right? I mean, that was a big series.
Yeah,
it's great. I don't know that we ever see that again, but nonetheless, the wise guys are all touting, and with brilliant dissertations, Navy in this game, getting 20 and a hook now.
I was gonna say, like Navy, especially
every handicapper I've read, says Navy is the play.
They run that Fakakta offense. It's the first game of the year. Like
Notre Dame lousy rush defense. Also, I picked up
I
on
wouldn't
that.
just assume Notre Dame's going to roll them. Like people are assuming they're going to roll them. I don't know. I think they'll win, but I don't know if they're going by 40.
Could be because of the time of possession. You're going to see Navy probably keep the ball on. It could be that it's a low-scoring game also, which would lend itself to not being able to cover a 3-touchdown spread. So go ahead, send it in on Notre Dame. Well, we've just given you our first college winner of the season here because all of the logic dictates that you would go ahead and take 20 in a hook. The service academies don't get blown out that often either.
No. They always run these weird-ass offenses
that
keep it close. Teams don't see it ever.
Exactly. And they're capable. They put a few points on the board with that. I mean, it should be an offense that is banned, like the center ice trap in hockey, like the four corners. Find some way to outlaw it, and yet they're going to employ it very successfully, supposedly against Notre Dame, even in Ireland with those pasty Irishmen in the crowd, looking for any form of booze for salvation. And so anyway, everything I'm reading is saying all the wise guys love Navy in this game, and yet the public sending it in on Notre Dame. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. A lot of fun being with you today. Our thanks to Chris Perkins for joining us. Sorry we couldn't connect the video. Mike Norvell, very gracious to do the show once again this year, going into what people think is going to be a wild and just crazily successful FSU season. So we shall see. When will Lubie start crying? Probably week 5.
I'm sure I'll be bitching in game 1. LSU's really good.
Can you believe that? They went away from the run. All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. A lot of fun being with you. Thanks again for tuning in. As we leave you, know that
The time.
It's 8:47.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.